You're listening to 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. And remember to stay tuned until noon for the news, the weather, and then after a short break, GameBabble Live, our video game news and information show, which airs every Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m. So stay tuned here to 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave for music, news, and eventually a whole lot of talk about video games. So please stay tuned and enjoy the music. Coming up next is Oh No by Goodbye June. Thank you so much for listening. Currently, it is 90 degrees here on the campus of Florissant Valley Community College. I'm Jell with your noon news update. Representative Bruce Frank speaks out against governor's plan. Not everyone is getting behind Governor Eric Greitens' plan to make St. Louis a safer place. On Monday, the Republican governor announced his plan to make St. Louis City safer. Democratic State Representative Bruce Franks of St. Louis says increasing the number of law enforcement officers in St. Louis won't stop crime. He says impoverished neighborhoods have poor relationships with the police. Representative Franks says more money should be put towards community recreation centers and job training programs. University City is looking for a new city manager. The city has posted a job listing on the employment website Indeed.com for the position. The city wants to find a person to take on the position on a permanent basis. Hi, I can read today. Currently, Charles Adams is serving as interim city manager. Applications are due August 7th. Mayor Shelley Welsh says the goal is to have a new city manager by November or early December. A man was rescued from Katy Trail. A man is recovering after he was stranded on the Katy Trail for days. The man was found injured on the Katy Trail in Weldon Spring Conservation Area yesterday. He was rushed to the hospital in serious condition, but his injuries aren't believed to be life-threatening. In national news, FBI Director nominee, loyalty is to the Constitution. FBI Director nominee Christopher Wray says his loyalty is to the Constitution and the rule of law. In his Senate confirmation hearing today, Wray vowed to lead an independent FBI and said he won't be pulling any punches. He also heaped praise on the men and women of the Bureau. Wray called them selfless patriots and said the FBI works tirelessly to protect all Americans every day. President Trump nominated Wray to replace fired FBI Chief James Comey. He was an assistant attorney general in George W. Bush's administration. Trump Jr. says he probably would have done things differently. Donald Trump Jr. says he should have handled things differently in a meeting with a Russian attorney during his father's presidential campaign. The younger Trump told Fox News host Sean Hannity last night that he had no ill intent when he met with an attorney he was told had incriminating information about Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton. The younger Trump was told the information came from a Russian government that wanted to help his father win the presidency. He told Hannity the meeting in June of last year happened, quote, before the Russia mania. Yeah, no kidding. Trump heads to Paris today. President Trump is leaving for Paris today. He's there to meet with new French President Emmanuel Macron and to join the celebration of Bastille Day this Friday. They'll also mark the 100th anniversary of America's entry into World War I. The two world leaders are set to discuss fighting terrorism and the situation in war-torn Syria. Protests are also expected across the City of Light. And federal regulators are investigating a teen's cell phone electrocution. Federal safety regulators are looking into the death of a Texas teenager whose family says was electrocuted when she picked up a cell phone while taking a bath. Madison Coe's family says the 14-year-old from Lubbock was taking a bath Sunday when she either plugged in her phone or picked up a phone that was plugged in. It happened last weekend while the girl was visiting her father in western New Mexico. The Consumer Product Safety Commission confirmed Tuesday that it is investigating the incident. Don't use electronics in the bath. In campus news, there is a free employment and resource fair tomorrow, Thursday, July 13th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. As tomorrow, here at the Student Center at St. Louis Community College, we will have a employment and resource fair. Thursday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Bring plenty of resumes. Professional attire is required, and it will be a big networking opportunity. We got people from General Motors, Home Depot, Deer Valley Home Health, St. Louis Community College, obviously. I'm reading this list here. Yes, St. Louis Community College will be here at St. Louis Community College. YWCA Metropolitan St. Louis, Missouri Job Center, Rankin Technical College, Higher Level, New Beginnings, Centaur Building Services, Benchmark Human Services, LGC Associate Hospitality Staffing, ABB Save-A-Lot, MGM Healthcare, YWCA Head Start, Slate, Convergys, Hiring Beyond Statistics, Missouri Public Service Commission, People Ready, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, Wayland Security, McDonald's, St. Louis Jobs Corporate Center, Stivers Staffing, Kelly Services, and so much more. So remember, that's tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Bring resumes and some professional attire, and who knows? Could work out great. As for the weather, today it is partly cloudy with a high of 90 freaking 9 and a low of 79. Tomorrow we're looking at thunderstorms in the evening, high of 97, low of 71. Friday it's going to be partly cloudy, high of 85, low of 67. Saturday it'll be mostly sunny, high of 88, low of 67. And Sunday, it will be sunny with a high of 94 and a low of 71. So, to make a long story short, it's going to be hot. And we might get some rain tomorrow. And then, Friday will be a little quote-unquote cooler. But in general, no, it's going to be hot. Get ice cream. You'll need it. Anyway... currently, it's 90-something degrees, probably 92 by now, but it's 90-ish degrees here at KCFV. I'm Jell, and this has been your noon news update. Now, we'll take a short break and listen to Make Believe by Make Me Break Me, and when we come back, we will have GameBabble Live, our video game news and information show, which airs every Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m. So please stay tuned to 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, and thank you so much for listening. Now, here's Make Believe by Make Me Break Me. Hello, you are listening to 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and this is GameBabble Live, our video game news and information show, which airs every Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m. As I said, I'm your host, Jell, and we love to kick this show off with new game releases, what came out this week, what's coming out next week, and then what anime is in theaters. So... it's a little bit of a slow week, but there still looks like a lot on PS4. And hey, Final Fantasy XII came out, so that makes me happy. Anyway, let's take a look-see at what came out. This week on PlayStation 4, we got Black the Fall, Day D Tower Rush, Derelict Fleet, Echoes of the Fae, The Fox's Trail, Fantastic Contraption, which is a PlayStation VR game where you build weird things. You try to get a thing. I think you're like trying to get a ball to a goal, and you build fantastic contraptions to do that. Final Fantasy XII, The Zodiac Age came out, and that makes me very happy. Hunting Simulator, Iron Cryptical, Leap of Faith, Minecraft Story Mode Season 2 Episode 1 Hero in Residence, MotoGP 17, Mr. Shifty, Serial Cleaner, The Bellows, another PlayStation VR game. That one's shortish horror quote-unquote experience, but whatever. The two things came out for the PlayStation VR. That's nice. Transport Giant, Warlocks vs. Shadows, and Yama Yama. And then tomorrow, Arcade Archives Neo Geo Fatal Fury Special will be coming out, along with a game called Frisky Business. Day after that, Lily, Child of Geos. And then we move on to next week. So what came out on Xbox One this week? Well, Black the Fall, Fable Fortune, which looks to be a Fable card game thing, like Fable Gwent. I don't know. Fable, oh geez, the name of that thing escapes me. That game everyone who isn't me plays. It's a Fable card game. That's the point. Hunting Simulator, Minecraft Story Mode Season 2, Episode 1 Hero in Residence, and MotoGP 17. Today, Iron Cryptical comes out for Xbox One. Tomorrow, Arcade Archives Neo Geo Fatal Fury Special. Day after that, Serial Cleaner. And that is the Xbox One. What's hitting the Nintendo Switch this week? Well, tomorrow we will be getting Arcade Archives Neo Geo Fatal Fury Special, so that's just coming into everything. Demambo. Okay. Death Squared, I and Me, and Levels Plus, Addictive Puzzle Game. Yeah, that covers the Switch. How about 3DS? 3DS got As Divine Cross, which should be a port of an Android RPG from Kemco that's probably pretty mediocre. Bit Dungeon Plus and Cursed Castilla EX, which if I recall, Cursed Castilla should be sort of a Ghouls and Ghosts clone type of game. Anyway, that came out for 3DS. And the Vita got pretty much the same thing. As Divine Cross, Bit Dungeon Plus, and Cursed Castilla EX. So I covered that. What about next week? Well, next week what we have to look forward to is 8-Bit Armies, Collector's Edition, Area A, Collector's Edition, Fallen Legion, Sins of an Empire. This is PS4, by the way. Fallen Legion, Sins of an Empire is actually made partially by the guy who runs Silicon Era, and I applaud them for not, advertising the game out the wazoo on their website. They've mentioned it 2 or 3 times, but they mention every other game a lot more. And it looks neat. It looks very Grand Kingdom inspired, very Vanillaware inspired, very Valkyrie Profile inspired. So it's I might need to try that. Orcs Must Die Unchained. Never played it, but I hear that's a really good game. And Yonder the Cloudcatcher Chronicles. And then, 21st is Friday. So next Friday on PlayStation 4, you can look forward to Conga Master. Fortnite, which I am happy to find out isn't made by Gearbox. They're just publishing it. Apparently Epic, actually made the game. So yay. Me and Gearbox aren't on good terms right now. I don't know if anyone's on good terms with Gearbox right now. But that would explain why, Fortnite didn't immediately repulse me. It looks like it's supposed to be some kind of cooperative building combat game thing, where, you build a base and then you try to defend it, I think. Looks neat. Anyway, then Super Hot and Super Hot VR come out next Friday for the PlayStation 4. That has me super excited. Because if you're unfamiliar, Super Hot is a really, really weird first-person shooter where time only moves when you move. So, time's frozen all around you, and it's when you inch forward, everything else slowly inches forward. And when you move your hand, everything else slowly moves forward in time. And what that allows you to do is, just crazy things, like grabbing bullets out of the air and, shooting a guy and grabbing his gun and beating him with it. And they can set up this, impossible action movie sequence that you slowly move through. And I've heard, it's a non-VR game, but they made a VR version. I've heard incredibly good things about the VR version. It was supposed to be Oculus exclusive, but now it has been ported to everything else. Thank goodness. Can't wait to try that out. That sounds like so much fun. Xbox One, what's coming out next week for you? Well, next week for Xbox One, we get Moon Hunters, What Remains of Edith Finch. I think I heard good things about that. Gigantic, and then Conga Master and Fortnite. And then, let's see, Switch next week is, it gets Minecraft Story Mode, Telltale Series, A Complete Adventure, so that's Season 1, all on your Switch. And then on Friday, they get Splatoon 2! I need to put pre-order on that. I like Splatoon. That needs to happen. 3DS next week isn't getting anything. PlayStation Vita next week isn't getting anything. So, I do believe that sums that up. How's about anime in theaters? Well, supposedly today and tomorrow, Project Ito Genocidal Organ is in theaters, but I can't find a single theater in St. Louis playing it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just missing something, but did a bunch of Google searching, and I don't think that one's playing in any St. Louis theaters. Disappointing. But We will be able to see Kiki's Delivery Service July 23rd and 24th as part of the G-Kids Studio Ghibli Fest, and that'll be like at all the Warenberg/Marcus theaters and stuff. And then August 11th is In This Corner of the World, which I hear that's going to be a very limited engagement, but it looks pretty neat. So hey, we got some animes that are coming to the theaters, and that's going to be good. So if you haven't seen Kiki's Delivery Service yet, July 23rd and 24th, it's happening. Anyway, time to take the traditional quick break after this, and then we will come back and begin discussing various things this week. It's a pretty scattershot pile of news, but I found news. We will talk about it. I think the biggest news... You know what? I didn't mention that, because I need to apologize to all the PC gamers right now. Because, obviously, I don't really cover that. Partially because it would be too overwhelming. So much stuff comes out on Steam. And I'm so not connected to Steam, because I'm very much a console-centric person. I have nothing but the utmost respect for PC, because if you can build a good PC and you know what you're doing, PC gaming is amazing. What with all the mods and the ways you can just sort of hand upgrade things yourself if you so desire, that's fantastic. But egad, keeping up with Steam releases borders on impossible. So many games come out on Steam every day that it is difficult to keep up with. And as such, I didn't mention one of the most important releases this week. And that's the fact that, which I will be talking about in depth later on in the show, and that's the fact that Fire Pro Wrestling World has entered Steam Early Access. It will be coming to PlayStation 4 eventually, but Fire Pro Wrestling World is in Steam Early Access, and if you don't know what Fire Pro is, good news, we will talk about that. I admit, I'm not a super hardcore wrestling game fan. I have played many Fire Pros in the past, but I'm not quite well-versed enough, but I did look it up because Fire Pro is just so fascinating, because you hear so many people talk about how it's just the greatest wrestling game ever, and then you look at it, and it looks kind of jank. But people love it, and there is good reason, apparently. So we'll discuss that later in the show. Until then, though, here is Letters to Nowhere by Bella and Lily, here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Stay tuned and thank you for listening. Hello and welcome back to GameBabble Live here at 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. And you know what? Just for laughs, I decided to look up what the PC releases for this week are. Let's try reading them so you understand my predicament. So, according to Game FAQs, this week, what has released on PC is A Quick Death, Ariel, Break the Cookie, Chicken Wars, Derelict Fleet, Duelist, Unearthed Prophecy, Fly Simulator, Gelu, Girls in Quiz, Hype Run, In the Raven Shadow, Insane Road, Mind Reflection, Inside the Black Mirror Puzzle, Minecraft Story Mode Season 2 Episode 1 Hero in Residence, Recession, Solitaire, Cat Pirate Portrait, Survivor VR, Tungulus, Wild Guns Reloaded, AccuRC2, Castaway Home Designer, Catacombs 1 Demon War, Dracula's Library, Iron Cryptical, Ninja Gainix, Omega Land, The 2048, The End is Nigh, Tick Hunter, Warp Rider, Zombie Blocks, Irie's World, All You Can Eat, Amaze 3D, Bead, Dead of Night, Dead Purge Outbreak, Dream Daddy, a dad dating simulator, Exocomments, Family Cobweb, Flipper Hazard, Hoverbots VR, Laseronium The Line, Lightning, D-Day, LS Driver 2, Lupus and Fabula, Masked Forces Zombie Survival, Metal as Pahuk, Numberline 2, Puzzle 1, Quap, Think Ahead, Tower of Time, Tron Hockey, Visitors, Marine Invasion, A Goo Adventure, Ballistic Attack, Balloon Saga, Early Access, Batter Up VR, Block Survival, Legend of the Lost Islands, Brave Path, Bullet VR, Canvas Quest, Castles 1990, China Soul's Hua Garden, Choice of Zombies, Clumsy Fred, Cycle, Dirty Fighter 1, Double Play 2-player VR Baseball, Edge of Insanity, Fallen Cube, Farmington Tales, Genetic Cognito, Golem Creation Kit, Hand Simulator, Hellquest, Jet Bros, Early Access, Calzor 2000, Mad Sector, Mind Blocks, My Personal Angel, Ohata Krepko, Panda Love, Rock and Roll, Rusted Warfare, Sorcerer's Dream, Soul Slayer, Sphere Frustration, Spirit of the Ancient Forest, Super Rocket Shootout, Survival Tycoon, V, Whip the Vote, Space of Darkness, Early Access, and Glass-Winged Ascension, Soundlights, Travel Riddles, Trip to France, and Travel Riddles, Trip to Italy. I think you understand my problem now. I'm very sorry. And, if I... this is one of those things where it's like, if I had a crew, if I had the PC guy, he could sort this into what matters and what doesn't. Unfortunately, I can barely do that with the console stuff. So, again, deepest apologies to all the PC gamers who listen to my show. I mean ya no disrespect, just... Oh, buddy. Anytime I can comment on something on PC, I will, but oh, buddy. That's why a lot of... you need a PC specialist for that. I'm a console specialist. I'm very sorry. Anyway, let us get back to the music for a minute with FEAR by Nothing Set in Stone. And then we get back, we'll actually get onto that news I promised you we'd talk about. You're listening to 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Thanks for listening. That was Just a Friend by Furno here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m. And, I just listed off all the new releases on PC, still didn't see Fire Pro on there. So there you go. There you go. Even with that big of a list, there's things that slip through the cracks. It's nuts. It's nuts. Lots of things. Lots of things. And if everyone's going, we're not even going to get into that. Anyway, so, I guess the big news for this week, other than, hey, Final Fantasy XII, Zodiac Age, and, Fire Pro Wrestling World, is that EVO 2017 is this weekend. That's the Evolution Fighting Game Tournament, the biggest fighting game tournament in the world. It's one where everyone gets together in Las Vegas, and they'll play them some fighting games. And it'll of course be on Twitch, and it'll be a bit of a big deal. Apparently last year they tried to air at least the Street Fighter part on ESPN, which got some amusing reactions. Anyway, the games for this year are, first of all, days are July 14th through the 16th, so like I said, the weekend. And the games this year are Street Fighter V, Tekken 7, Guilty Gear Xrd Revelator 2, Injustice 2, Super Smash Bros. Melee, Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, BlazBlue Central Fiction, The King of Fighters 14, and Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Yes, they will be playing Melee there. If that confuses you, then, a lot of people really like to take Super Smash Bros. Melee very seriously. It's funny, because only a few years ago, Super Smash Bros. People were like, that's not a real fighting game, they shouldn't have it at EVO, and then they did this thing where they're like, hey, vote for what game you want to be our wild card game. What game would you participate in a tournament for if we did it out of all of these crazy games? And Melee won by a landslide because it has a serious competitive scene. And now Smash Brothers is like an every year thing. It draws in a crowd, but the Smash community is a little weird because they'd been ostracized by the general fighting game community for so long that they kind of have their own terminology for things. They've sort of become this weird separate thing that's only now rejoining the fighting game community proper because, oh egad, so many people play Smash Brothers. And Yeah, Melee is one of them. That's why we got 2 Smash Brothers. You know, we use the newest one. It's got the most characters, and people like it, and it's very nice. But Melee, once you see, like, tune in for it. Tune in for when they do the Super Smash Brothers Melee tournament, and you'll understand. Because a lot of what makes Super Smash Brothers Melee so special is accidental. There's just interesting ways you can abuse the system and glitch things out just right that the game winds up going at an insane speed. Like, I thought I knew Super Smash Bros. Melee. Then I see high-level tournament play, and I'm like, why is the game on fast forward? Help! I don't know what's going on. It's so fast. It doesn't make sense. It's like, oh yeah, well, they're wave dashing and then canceling this move and then doing all this insane crap. And you're just like, that isn't Smash Brothers anymore. I don't know what it is, but what? Never underestimate Smash Brothers, people. Never underestimate it. Anyway, speaking of fighting games, Sub-Zero is out for Injustice 2. I love the designs they have, because, like, they actually got DC artists to design a look for Sub-Zero, and now I kind of wish Sub-Zero had a comic. Like, now I kind of wish Sub-Zero would just become a superhero. Because Ice Ninja, kinda awesome. Although, technically, he is Lin Kuei, Scorpion is a ninja. I know. On top of that, apparently Daigo Umehara has his own manga now. Daigo Umehara being one of the best fighting game players in the world. He's relatively infamous. But, time for something that appeals more to me. Arcana Heart 3 Love Max 6 stars had a Kickstarter for a PC release of the game, and it has passed its goal. It is coming to PC. Now, you're probably going to say, what's that? That sounds like a stupid combination of words. And you're right. Arcana Heart is an all-girl fighting game, which in Japan there was a ton of all-girl fighting games, and I can't say enough good things about the Asuka 120% Burning Fest series. But Arcana Heart was the first, like, all-girl fighting game to actually make it to America, and there's a reason for that. Arcana Heart came out back on PS2. And back in the PS2 days, the high-res 2D fighters were rare. Like, there was Guilty Gear and nothing else. No one did fighting games that resolution. We were just talking 640 by 480 sprite resolution. But no one did 2D fighters that were high-res. And then Arcana Heart comes out of nowhere, and they're like, hey, we're high-res too. So it was like the second high-res 2D fighting game. So, yeah, Atlas jumped on the chance to publish it, even though the fact that it was an all-girl fighter made it iffy if it would really take off in America. Now, unfortunately, thanks to Sony's astonishingly stupid quality control, they had to remove a lot of the voice work in the game. See, Sony had a rule back in the PS2 days, and it carried over into the PS3, where if there's over a certain amount of dialogue, you must dub the game. Dubbing costs a lot of money and takes up a hefty amount of disk space. So Atlas was like, we can't dub this game. So what they did was they cut out a huge chunk of Japanese voice acting to get it under the voice acting limit, and thus they didn't have to dub it. So, to recap, according to Sony Computer Entertainment America's quality control, the less Japanese voice acting you have, the higher quality a game is. By the way, if you've ever heard of the games Castle Shikigami 2 and Chaos Wars, especially Chaos Wars, that's why they have terrible dubs. Chaos War was an obscure Japanese strategy game that came to America by a really small company, and when Sony told them they had to dub the game, they just got their friends and family to dub it. Look it up, it's amazing, especially the character of Zeros. Because Zeros is like this cool guy in a leather outfit who like wields guns and stuff, and he's voiced by like an 8-year-old kid. Which I can only assume is because the kid was like the son of someone there, and he was like, Daddy, I want to be a cool character. Like, okay, you can be Zeros. Yay! That had to be what happened. It's the only explanation. But I'm getting off track. So Arcana Heart 1 came out in America. It was pretty neat, but a bit stiff. Then the home port of Arcana Heart 2 sucked. It didn't even come to America. I imported the Japanese one. It had horrible slowdown issues. It was a bad port. But Arcana Heart 3 came to America. That one was really dumb. In Japan and in Europe, it was on 360 and PS3 and had physical releases with special editions. But for some reason, probably involving really dumb quality control, the American release was on PS3 only, download only. And when asked about if it would come to Xbox 360, the publishers said, no, and we can't say anything but screw Microsoft. So they had a very bad experience with Microsoft's American branch about bringing Arcana Heart 3 to the 360, and with Sony, they could only get it digitally. So that was what happened, but later Sony, relaxed their policies, and the expansion Love Max actually got a physical release. But Arcana Heart 3 was where the series really got good. You see, part of the problem with Arcana Heart was the characters were kind of bland, the backgrounds were super bland, the music was really unfitting because it was more dating sim music than it was fighting game music, and the game was just kind of stiff and kind of slow. Arcana Heart 3 fixed all that. Because each new Arcana Heart, they often brought in new character designers, leading to a pleasant mix of new characters. So a lot of the new characters were way cooler than the old characters. Backgrounds got a little bit more interesting. The music actually became fighting game music. The controls got way better, more responsive. Gameplay got way faster. Arcana Heart 3 is so much better than the other ones. And after Love Max, the next which Love Max was just like a balance patch, and they added in sort of a half super move thing, but they didn't do too terribly much with it. There were no new characters, there was just a bonus story mode, and, some tweaks, some new moves here and there, but it was kind of disappointing. 6 Stars, however, actually adds in a new character who is flagrantly inspired by Kill la Kill. And, yeah, it was okay, so this is the newest Arcana Heart. When's it coming out on home consoles? Well, for some reason or another, the company that made it, Examu, they couldn't get it released on home consoles. I don't know why, but they just couldn't. And, so yeah, that game's been out in Japan in Japanese arcades for more than 3 years in its, final build, and it has no home port, and it's the last version of Arcana Heart, and it's what the crap? Why isn't this out here? Well, now, it'll be coming to PC. I wish it had a PS4 release, but I'll take what I can get, because Arcana Heart's pretty cool. See, you're going to look at it, and you're going to say, okay, so it's this moe schoolgirl fighting game. It looks really dumb. It is actually quite possibly the deepest and most complex 2D fighting game ever made. And when, the hardcore fighting game players actually find out how Arcana Heart works, they usually run because it's too complex. You see, Arcana Heart has one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen, the Arcana system. And the way the Arcana system works is that each character has, this spirit they can summon, which is their Arcana. And there's an Arcana button, and each Arcana has its own move list. The Plant Arcana has the ability to set traps and shoot vines. The Love Arcana lets you shoot lasers. There's an Ice Arcana you can use to freeze people, and so on. The twist is that you can mix and match characters and Arcanas. And they drastically change everything. For example, the Wind Arcana increases a character's speed and gives them the ability to double jump and air dash. And you can apply that to, a grappler. And all of a sudden you have a grappler that moves at a decent speed and has double jump and air dash. But the Fire Arcana adds in, the ability to break guard and drastically boost strength. And then you get into crazy things like the Shadow Arcana, which replaces your shadow with a little bat-winged blob that you can then command. It's like Eddie from Guilty Gear, except you can put it on any character. And again, the Plant Arcana, that one's traps. You can make anyone a trap character by sticking the plant arcana on them. And like I said, each arcana has their own move list because they all use the arcana button. So it doesn't matter what, like, your character's move list is. It's just quarter circle forward and arcana to do an arcana move. And then each arcana also has its own crazy super mode time freeze thing-ish. And each one has its own super move. And you tack that on top of your character's abilities, and all of a sudden things just get insane. My favorite arcana, though, has to be the Mirror Arcana. The Mirror Arcana not only gives you an Aegis Reflector on any character, you can just have an Aegis Reflector, which is, a little shield that pops up that can reflect projectiles and things, but it lets you steal your opponent's moves. You do quarter circle forward in Arcana, and a shadowy image of your opponent will come out like an assist and do one of their moves. And if you charge up your Arcana button and just do your, Arcana highs and lows, your character transforms into your opponent and does their strong high and strong low attacks. And on top of all of that, double quarter circle forward and Arcana with the Mirror Arcana, you just steal one of your opponent's super moves. And this becomes the most amazing thing ever when you go into the trial mode. See, Arcana Heart 1 had kind of a hard boss with Mildred, who is now in Arcana. But Arcana Heart 2 has one of the hardest bosses in fighting game history. They're completely broken. Arcana Heart 3's boss is nowhere near that bad. But you can fight the old Arcana Heart 2 boss if you do the time attack mode. And it's such a BS fight. Unless you use the Mirror Arcana. And then, guess what happens? You get to steal one of the brokest fighting game characters in history's moves, and you get to use her stupid, utterly inescapable, screen-filling super move against her. Victory has never been sweeter as doing that, because I remember struggling against that character and being like, wait a second, Mirror Arcana? Uh-oh. I consider that one of the greatest moments in fighting game history. Unfortunately, like I said, Arcana Heart was designed for 640 by 480 resolution, so the sprites look really weird now, but it's pretty neat. It's a pretty neat fighting game, and that's not even getting into its other subsystems, like, the homing dash system they're putting in Dragon Ball FighterZ? Yeah, that comes from Arcana Heart, and the Arcana Heart version, there's a chart for it, because it depending on what direction you press while hitting the homing dash button, determines what movement arc you take when you homing dash. And that, that is so complicated. Arcana Heart is a really, really complex fighting game. And yeah, that's sort of the reason why it only has this weird cult fan base, because most people look at it and they go, oh geez, it's a stupid moe schoolgirl fighter, all these characters are dumb, and they find out, oh wait, it has depth, and then they find out, oh wait, it has too much depth, now I'm scared, and they run the other way. But it has a cult fan base, and I'm so glad that 6 Stars will eventually be coming to PC, but if you're still interested, I'd look up the Kickstarter, because they, for stretch goals, they're thinking of adding in more characters. And that would make the game a lot more worthwhile if it was more than just, hey, we got add new character who's kind of neat. No. Give me a couple more. I'd be down with a few more characters for Arcana Heart, even though the roster is actually pretty big by now. Good times. And, let's see. I just realized I actually have a little bit more fighting game news, because Tekken 7's first DLC pack will have Tekken Bowl in it. Good old Tekken bowling game, looking nicer than ever, but I was like, this seems kind of dumb, because you could just sell this as a separate game if you're going to sell it as DLC, but that's like, oh, it's a pack that also comes with new stages and outfits and things. It's not just Tekken Bowl. Well, alright. Though I think Tekken 7 is pretty sparse content-wise, and this should have been in there in the first place. We'll roll with it. Also, there's been an update to ARMS, that adds Max Brass as a playable character, who is the game's end boss, as well as a new multiplayer mode called Headlock Scramble, where you can play as the game's true end boss, which is Headlock, on top of adding a bunch of new weapons you can use, tweaking the balance of existing weapons, adding in Max Brass's stage, of course. It's a lot of nice tweaks. So I guess that was our inadvertent fighting game news section. Anyway, time to kick you back to the music. How about Devil's Advocate by Franklin Project? Yeah, because that's what I'm going to play next here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank That was All On You by Nick Fradiani here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and this is GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m. And I just remembered a little bit of fighting game news, talked about last week, but it's worth mentioning. Also, at EVO, there will be a pre-release tournament for Dragon Ball FighterZ, along with the mystery Arika fighter. If you're unfamiliar, Arika is the developer of the Street Fighter EX series, and they, around April 1st, showed off a game that was pretty much Street Fighter EX, except with only the EX characters, not any of the Street Fighter characters. And they were like, oh, it's just an April Fool's joke. And then it's like, actually, we were trying to see if anyone actually cared, and people care. So now they're like, oh, we're just going to shop this around. Maybe we'll find a publisher. They're thinking Namco might publish it, call it Fighting EX Layer, reference to Fighting Layer, which was the other fighting game they made after, other than Street Fighter EX, and I really hope it happens, because that game looks really good. So that will be shown at EVO. Fun side note, do you know why EVO is held in Las Vegas? It's because of gambling laws. Technically, you're in most states, you're not allowed to gamble on video games. I don't know how many people actually know this, but yeah, like, you can't really have a money match in most states. Probably news to a lot of people. So, yeah, in order to actually have the big fighting game tournament with, like, actual prize money, they hold it in Las Vegas, Nevada. Of course. So, moving on past that to other video game news. Hey, apparently the Mega Man Legacy Collection 2 is coming soonish, less than a month away. And it will have Mega Man 7, 8, 9, and 10. And it, like, they're very much like, oh, it's going to be like the complete definitive editions. It's going to have all the DLC, and we're using the PlayStation version of Mega Man 8. If you're unfamiliar, the Saturn version had like a little bit of extra content, few extra bosses that aren't in the PlayStation version, which makes it a pain and so getting the Saturn version of Mega Man 8 is a pain in the butt. And the fact they're using the PlayStation version is kind of a cop-out. A lot of things about the Mega Man Legacy Collection was a cop-out. Because that was the thing. Everyone was super excited. Hey, Mega Man Legacy Collection. I look at it and I'm like, they already did a Mega Man Collection on, like, PS2 and GameCube and Xbox, and that was way better than the Legacy Collection. I guess the Legacy Collection was cheap. And now here comes another Legacy Collection. It's nice that there will be physical releases of Mega Man 9 and 10. But I look at it and I'm like, really? Just these games? No Rockman and Bass? Really? And certainly no Battle and Chase. I would like a Rockman Battle and Chase. I actually like that game. Pro tip, play as Roll. Like, that was the thing. I was playing as Roll, and I think that made the game a lot more fun because you could use her jump ability to make tighter turns than everyone else. Everyone else seemed to have trouble making those turns, but, like, you could do this jump turn with Roll, and it was great. I actually liked that game, okay? It was okay. Not great, but it was okay. Also, the Netflix Castlevania animated series is up. It's based on Castlevania 3, and I have not watched it yet. I need to, I hear opinions on it are kind of split. But of course, yesterday I spent most of the day playing a lot of things, but mostly Final Fantasy 12, which we will get to in a minute. Let me see. This is kind of important news. WWE 2K18 will be coming to the Nintendo Switch. If you're not familiar, they released none of the WWE games on the Wii U. So, Nintendo Switch already has more third-party support than the Wii U, and I actually think that might continue. Mostly because the Wii, a lot of what matters is how many systems sell. And the Wii U, it came out and people looked at it and they just sort of shrugged, and it didn't sell that well, and so no one wanted to release any games on it. And so no one bought the Wii U because there were no games. There were no games because no one bought the Wii U. The Switch, however, has a really compelling gimmick. The whole being a console, being a portable, switching back and forth thing, a lot of people really like that. The Switch is actually selling really well. And so third parties are like, oh, well, maybe we should actually release games on the Switch. I hear Nihon Falcom is looking at releasing some Switch games. They are the people who do like the Ys series and stuff. They do a lot of interesting RPGs that are usually on PC. Maybe we'll see some of them get a Switch port. Especially because Ys 8, which is coming to America, the Lacrimosa of Dana, looks pretty good, by the way. But that was originally a Vita game, and now we're getting like an enhanced PS4 and PC port. It's like, yeah, you know what? That's a Vita game. I think the Switch can handle it. Like, the graphics are not impressive. Not ugly by any stretch of the imagination, but yeah, it kind of looks like a high-res PS2 game with good textures. But, looks nice. And, yeah, also, Doomfist has just joined Overwatch, new Overwatch character. They've got the vocals for the Sonic Forces opening theme up, which is interestingly sung by the lead singer of Hoobastank instead of Crush 40, which has had some split opinions, which I completely understand. The song's not really done yet, so I'm hoping to get a little bit more harmony in there, because it's just, the vocals just aren't up to the quality of the background music, to be blunt, or previous Sonic game vocal music. But yeah, so one more thing to talk about before we get into the long, stupid stuff, and that's Yakuza Kiwami. Yakuza Kiwami is a remake of the first Yakuza game. It will be coming out August 29th. I'm shocked at how low the price tag on it is. They are adding in some new features on top of the new graphics, such as the multiple fighting styles they had from Yakuza 0. Like, it looks like all the Yakuza 0 fighting styles will be in the game, plus one or two extra fighting styles. And they've also added in a feature called Majima Anywhere, where basically Majima becomes the new Mr. Beatdown, or Mr. Shakedown, that is. Majima is, of course, a fan-favorite character. When the one time they dubbed the game, he was voiced by Mark Hamill, and yeah, he was a really fun character, and he was actually playable in Yakuza 0, and he's way crazier in Yakuza 1, and now he could challenge you anytime, anywhere in Yakuza Kiwami. That makes me very happy, because more Majima is always better. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. I like the low price, especially because the Yakuza series has evolved so much that having a game where there's, as far as I know, only one playable character is going to feel like a huge downgrade, no matter how many extra features they add. So it's like, yeah, it's nice you're making it very low priced. Unlike the Final Fantasy 12 re-release. I mean, it's not full price, but it's darn close. So yes, that brings us to the re-release of Final Fantasy 12, Final Fantasy 12 The Zodiac Age. I've mentioned this multiple times on the show because I actually really liked the original Final Fantasy 12. So I was super excited about this. But a lot of people brought up the fact that it's just an enhanced version of a PS2 game. So the fact that it costs almost full price is kind of ludicrous. And, like, in the face of Yakuza Kiwami, and especially the Crash N-Sane trilogy, yeah, kind of true, because the Crash N-Sane trilogy is cheaper, and it's actually a full from-scratch remake of 3 different games, while Final Fantasy XII is a, let's take the PS2 game and fix up a few character models and make the textures high-res and display it in high resolution. Yay! And this costs more. Why? Of course, because it's Final Fantasy. Either way, I'm actually surprised because the limited edition Steelbook version of the game is actually selling out. I've never seen that happen. The Steelbook versions are usually a dime a dozen, as they were for the original release of Final Fantasy XII. I've got one of those. So it's actually surprising to see, oh, hey, there's a Steelbook limited edition, and people are actually buying it, because I think time has been very kind to Final Fantasy XII, because that is the most skipped Final Fantasy game. So many people skipped 12 or never really got anywhere in 12, and a lot of people were like, it's too different and weird, it's kind of MMO-ish, I don't know, I'll wait for the next game. And then the next game winds up being 13, and then after 13 is 15, and all of a sudden, Final Fantasy XII doesn't seem all that weird. In fact, it seems quite quaint. On top of that, Final Fantasy XII inspired a lot of future JRPGs. The Xenoblade games, as well as The Last Story, blatantly wear their Final Fantasy XII inspiration on their sleeve. Because, like, both of them have a character that looks like Vossler from Final Fantasy XII, on top of just both playing very similar to Final Fantasy XII. And even Final Fantasy XV, a lot of people play it, and it makes them nostalgic for Final Fantasy XII. Because I personally thought it was like a worse version of Final Fantasy XII. So all of a sudden, it's like, maybe we should give 12 another chance. But the good news is that Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age, is not just a PS2 port. It actually has some enhancements, because after the US release, in Japan, they released this thing called the Final Fantasy XII International Zodiac Job System. And the Zodiac Job System it added a few new weapons and things, but it changed the way the license board worked. And the license board was one of the big problems with Final Fantasy XII. It was a brilliant idea. Every time you beat up enemies, you get license points. You spend them to earn licenses, which is how you get new skills and abilities and equipment. And you get stat boosts. And basically, the licenses you bought would build your character into a custom character class. The problem was that the license board, all the licenses were hidden. You didn't know what any of the licenses would get you until you were just about to purchase them. And so you didn't really know how to build your character from that. And on top of that, if you looked at all the licenses, you'd find out the license board was laid out by idiots. As, like, all the stat ups, like a huge clump of them, are just in the middle of the board. So everyone just makes a beeline to the stat ups and gets all of them first. And then they're complaining because all their characters are exactly the same because they didn't go out of their way to vary them. And the whole thing just kind of fell apart. So the International Zodiac Job System said, alright, we're going to take the abilities, split them up into 12 different classes, and then when you go to the license board, it says, what class do you want your character to be? Pick one of these 12 classes, and then they are stuck as that class, and they will only get skills that would make them that class. And it's like, okay, that forces some more varied characters on you, but that takes away all the customization, and I hated it. Like, for example, I was talking about white mages and how, I was feeling bad because it's like, okay, I'm going to need a healer, so someone's going to need to be the white mage, and that's going to suck. My friend of mine's like, oh, give them a mace. You give a white mage a mace, and then they can deal damage based on, like, their magic stat, and then they're actually pretty okay fighters. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Oh, wait. In International Zodiac Job System, white mages can't use maces, so you can't do that. That's the problem with taking away the customization like that. But Zodiac Age fixes it. How does it fix it? You get 2 jobs. You pick your first job, and then you unlock the thing that says License Board Plus, and you get to pick a second job. All of a sudden, it just went from worse than the original to way better than the original. It's funny, because I actually saw a guy on Game FAQs who's like, I don't see why having 2 jobs would matter that much. Like, because it brings back the customization. The advantage of the Zodiac job system was that there were more stat ups. Like, if you chose to be a fighter or a monk, you would get a higher attack stat than was possible in the original Final Fantasy XII. And that freaking mattered, you know? That meant that your characters really were more varied. But now that they have that, being able to combine 2 different jobs matters more than ever. Because you could do something nutty, like combine a knight with a monk, and then you get even more strength boosts, and now you've just doubled up on strength, and your knight is stronger than ever. Or you combine 2 different classes, be like a knight and a mage, and that gets friggin' amazing, and it opens everything up. And now I can have my white mage also be a red mage, and they can use the maces again. Now everything is wonderful, except for frickin'... Dang it! I'm trying to bring something up here, because there is... Let me just try closing all these browser windows and see if that will make everything stop being stupid. Because there is actually a fantastic thread on Game FAQs that is stickied about great job class combinations for Final Fantasy XII The Zodiac Age, and it brings a smile to my face. Let's see. Sorry about this. 1 second. Because you gotta hear some of these. Because this explains why this matters so much. This is written by Donkey Punch Jr., and he's like, okay, here's some amazing combinations. Gotta read some of these. Hunter Breaker. Hunter's ninja swords are one of the best weapons to use with Genji gloves, and Hunter Breaker is arguably the best way to do so. This combination gives you 3 times swiftness, a decent ranged weapon, hand bob, all 4 breaks, Genji gear, high strength and HP, and ninja swords. Also good, Hunter Samurai. Not as strong as Hunter Breaker, but has one huge advantage. This is the only combination that allows for Genji glove plus Yagyu Dark Blade, plus which is a dark element weapon, plus black robes, which boost dark damage by 50%. In other words, this is the ultimate Yasmat killer. You can also easily heal any teammate with dark absorbing gear by attacking. Let's see, what else have we got here? Hunter White Mage, a nearly invincible healer tank hybrid. High HP, shields, and main Gosh, a dagger that gives you a whopping 50 evasion. Combined to access all the buff and healing spells, make this the best tank in the game. Even better, you can use the Drain spell to damage enemies while healing yourself. Maybe that's why I'll make my Vaughn. But let's see, here it is, Samurai Monk. Similar to the Samurai Knight combo, this combines Samurai's high magic power with Monk's strength, the highest in the game, to greatly boost katana damage. Monk can unlock White Magic 9 through 13, which benefit from Samurai's excellent magic power. What do they say about Samurai Knight? The synergy here is incredible. Samurai's katanas do damage based on both strength and magic. Samurai has very high magic power, along with magic-boosting mystic armor, but has just mediocre strength. Knight has excellent strength and strength-boosting heavy armor, so this combo will greatly increase katana damage. But it gets better. Knight unlocks a bunch of excellent white magics, but has lousy magic power. Samurai's magic ability will make those spells far more effective. What's more, this is the only combo in the game which allows white robes, 50% damage boost for Holy Element, plus Excalibur, Holy Element Sword, plus 3 times swiftness, making you the ultimate undead slayer. Yeah! Combinations like this. And what I really like is what the guy who wrote this said at the end. Are there any bad combinations? No. Because all the classes were designed for the International Zodiac job system. They were all meant to be played solo. So even if you get a bad combination, you will have at least one good job in there. And that makes me happy. This does mean that Zodiac Age is way easier than other Final Fantasy XII. Final Fantasy XII is actually a relatively challenging game. I've still had some challenge, at least at the beginning. But yeah, so it's a bit easier than previous versions of Final Fantasy XII because of things like this. But it has a bunch of unlockable bonus modes. Like, there's this new trial mode where you have to face, like, these super hard challenges. And if you manage to beat trial mode, it will unlock a special mode where you can play through the entire game without leveling up. You're level 1 for the whole game. And I just look at that and I go, is that even possible? A friend of mine claims it is. I don't believe him. But okay, there's a mode where you can play through the whole game as a level 1 character. I'm curious how that would work. The way he put it is items and equipment will just matter that much more. Okay. Okay, if you say so. So yeah, I'm definitely enjoying the Zodiac Age, and I'd like to actually try something a little different. Actually, I'm gonna go ask about this first. We're gonna kick you back to some music in a minute. But yeah, Final Fantasy XII Zodiac Age, pretty neat. I wish it was more of an upgrade. Like, it actually doesn't run at 60 FPS. It runs at a solid 30, but that's because it more than likely the game logic is tied to frame rate. This is the thing that, like, weirds people out. What do you mean you can't just boost the frame rate? Well, sometimes how a game works is linked to the frame rate because they're designed for consoles, and consoles would have a consistent or relatively consistent frame rate. So it, like, makes perfect sense when you're designing a console game. It doesn't make any sense, or makes very little sense on PC games, though, because there's so many variables. It's one of those weird PC-console differences, and it just weirds people out. You know, why can't you just make every game 60 FPS? Well, because it was designed to run at 30 FPS. So, yeah, that's a thing, and, yeah, it's, but I am enjoying it. Anyway, let's kick you back to the music. Next up is, and then we'll be back probably to talk about Fire Pro Wrestling. Until then, though, here is Kiss It by Dev featuring Sage the Gemini. Here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much. Hello and welcome back to GameBabble Live here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. I'm your host, Jell, and that was Singin' in the Rain by Simple Plan. So, just check to make sure that I can do this on the radio. I've always wanted to try to do this, but wasn't sure. We're gonna do it. Go do it tonight. 7 p.m. on Twitch, I am going to stream Final Fantasy XII. If anyone wants to see me loving the crap out of that game, tune in to twitch.tv/JeltonZ at 7 p.m. tonight. That's 7 p.m. Central if anyone's listening online. And yeah, we'll go play some Final Fantasy XII. Once again, that is twitch.tv/JeltonZ. That's GELTONZ. All one word. And yeah, well, we'll do that around 7 o'clock. That should give me plenty of time to get some lunch and prepare. And yeah, we're not too terribly far in Final Fantasy XII, because I was actually streaming last night too, and then slammed face first into some network issues as it just started dropping frames, and then when I restarted the computer, the internet went out for a little bit late last night. But I did, like, play again late at night. There are two videos. There's sort of an episode 1 and an episode 1.5 that I did at 4 in the morning because I really wanted to get back to Final Fantasy XII. So at 4 in the morning, I tuned back in, and you might want to watch that one just because of why I stopped. Because I just started falling asleep in the middle of a really annoying puzzle. Okay, where we're at right now is it's still very much the beginning of the game, and they're throwing a big banquet for the Empire that just, invaded my home country of Rabernaster. And our hero, Vaughn, quote-unquote hero, is deciding he's going to crash the party. He's going to sneak in, and he's going to steal some valuable treasures. And little does he realize everyone is converging on the party. I kind of wish I was starting the episode with that, because, There's a scene where they show Vossler and they hint at, Princess Ash still being alive. Big surprise, she's on the freaking cover. I don't think that counts as a spoiler. Don't believe on Dore's lies, after all. And then, we see Balthier and Fran riding in on their friggin' magic-powered hoverbike. Like, all the characters are converging on this one point, so I'm about to get Balthier and Fran and truly start the game soon. But first I have to sneak in, and I'm in this puzzle where basically I have to not get caught by the guards, and I do this by actually calling out to them, and then they'll chase down the hall at me, and then I, move around them. Unfortunately, I was doing that thing where I forget to be awake for, a minute. So I'd be in the middle of this dungeon. I'm in the middle of this puzzle. I call out to the guards. I'm running around, and then I just forget how things work. There are some times where I just straight run directly into guards. I'm like, what am I doing? I should talk to those guards over there. Hey, get back to the basement. It's like, oh, man, that's right. I'm supposed to sneak around the guards. Thanks, guards, for reminding me I'm supposed to sneak around you. And I had the face cam on. I don't normally do face cams, but since I love Final Fantasy XII so much, and I'm just kind of grinning from ear to ear for most of this, I'm like, I need to show people how much I actually like this game for real. And, I can only imagine what kind of face I was making as I just sort of fell asleep mid-puzzle. I'm sure it's great. So that's in the, I have not gotten those onto my YouTube channel yet because Twitch is being stupid. So I'll have to manually download them and upload them, which I'll try to do before the stream. No guarantees, though. But you can watch them on Twitch in, the previous streams thing. And yeah, frames will probably be dropped horribly at the end of the first episode, because that's why I quit. But you miss nothing of value, because the end of that first episode is a whole lot of grinding. And yeah, I'm also going really weird. I am not optimizing my classes. Instead, Final Fantasy XII, everyone has unique attack animations. So I looked up a video of everyone's attack animations, and that's what I'm mostly basing everything on. I've already bought a katana. Fran is going to be my samurai. I'm thinking I might go samurai red mage with her. I was going to go samurai monk, but then I was like, wait a second. Is unarmed combat any good? Because I don't want to really use a pole. And unarmed combat, I wanted to do an unarmed combat character, but I asked around and people were like, yeah, no, it's not bad, but it's not as good as using literally any weapon. And it's like, okay, we'll just do, I might maybe do samurai monk still. I don't have to choose my second class till later, but we're definitely starting with samurai. We are definitely giving Fran a katana, and, Pinello is my foe breaker, because I kind of like the weird axe hammer Shoryuken she does. Pinello has the dumbest attack animations, but I like her hammer axe Shoryuken. So she's our foe breaker. She's pretty much the barbarian of the party, is little Pinello. And then Vaughn is my white mage, because white mages apparently get daggers and greatswords later on, and I like Vaughn's dagger and greatsword attacks. So he's like, yeah, you be the white mage. I don't know what his secondary class is going to be. Let me see, what was white mage, time mage? No, what are the super broken ones? Hunter white mage. Nearly invincible healer tank hybrid. White mage machinist. I don't know. I think I might go with White Mage Hunter then. Well, we'll make Vaughn a White Mage Hunter. Although I don't know if Hunter's actually the name of the class. I think this might be a little bit weird. Need to double check that. But yeah, that is a thing. I will be streaming some Final Fantasy 12 tonight at 7 on Twitch. The channel, twitch.tv/JeltonZ. Hope I get to see y'all there. And one other thing I wanted to talk about, I'll probably talk more about it on the actual stream, because I was reading some old retrospectives on Final Fantasy XII and people complaining about it. And one of the, it had an infamously tough development process because the guy in charge of it freaked out and quit halfway through because all the fans were like, you're changing too much, you're ruining the game. And meanwhile, Square Enix themselves kept putting in suggestions like, Vaughn was not meant to be the main character of Final Fantasy XII. Bash was. Bash is the main character of 12. But they did focus group testing, and no one wanted to play as this older guy with facial hair. And most of the fans were like, yo, where's our, pretty boy protagonist? So they shoehorned in Vaughn, but what I appreciated about this was they didn't, just take Bosch and make him look like Vaughn. No. Bosch is still the main character. The story hasn't really changed. Just the viewpoint at the beginning is Vaughn's. I actually like Vaughn as a character, because he's kind of the team cheerleader. There's some definite flaws with his character. Some very hefty flaws. Mostly in his motivations. But I kind of like how he's just this normal guy. He's not the chosen one. He's nothing special. He has the highest stats due to being the main character, but not really. So he just sort of gets swept up into something, and everyone else on the team is more mature than him and matters more than him, and he's literally just some guy who gets caught up in all of this. And at best is team cheerleader. Because he's not a mopey emo kid. A lot of people go, oh, Final Fantasy with their mopey emo kid pretend. No, Vaughn's quite upbeat. He often is there to lift the party's spirits because everything else is so serious. But because of all these demands and all these changes and all these, tweaks to what the original designer's vision was, he had to quit halfway through, and they called in Akitoshi Kawazu. And Akitoshi Kawazu is a man who has actually been quoted as saying, and I quote, "I am well aware that many of the games I make are not exactly good." I actually really like the guy. He has, a lot of people are like, oh no, not this guy, because he did the Japanese Final Fantasy II, the actual Final Fantasy II, not Final Fantasy IV, which is the game where you get more hit points by having everyone stand around and beat each other with sticks. Because the only way to raise your hit points in that game is to take damage and not heal it. And so, yeah, you just fight the easiest monsters and just have everyone beat one another with sticks until they get more hit points. It was really dumb. But it was really good on paper. And, yeah, Akitoshi Kawazu is just... He is an adventurous person. He comes up with some very creative concepts. He created my favorite RPG of all time, which is Final Fantasy Legend 2 on the Game Boy. I know, weird choice. So I like him, and I just found out why, because he's been the fallback guy a lot, because this happened with Crystal Chronicles. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, they had the game made, they played it, they were like, something's really missing, this seems really generic, hey, Kawazu! And so he comes in there and, he tweaks the battle system and stuff, and I love what they did with the battle system in that game. And, I was like, why is he always the fallback guy if he's known for making kind of weird, broken, half-functional RPG? Oh, he was one of the game designers for the original Final Fantasy. He was part of the original crew with Hironobu Sakaguchi. Oh... Yeah, it makes so much more sense now. And it's yeah, so that's why you would call this nut job in. And yeah, so I'm happy with how Final Fantasy XII turned out, but I can definitely see where it was hindered by the rather strange development process. And yeah, so that's where we're at with that. Anyway, I should... Now I'm just rambling, aren't I? Oh, geez, he was involved with Legend of... Of course he's involved with Legend of Mana. Why wouldn't he be? That's the weirdest of the Mana games. But my favorite. What a surprise. Anyway, now I'm just rambling. So, I'm going to kick you back to the music for a little bit. Let some music play. And then at about 2 o'clock... we will discuss Fire Pro Wrestling World and the Fire Pro Wrestling series and why the fact that Fire Pro Wrestling World is in Steam Early Access is like a big deal to a bunch of people. Until then, here's Thin Line by Billy Ray Cyrus. Why not? Here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening, and please stay tuned for more GameBabble Live. Hello, you are listening to 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and this is GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m. So, before we go on to talk about Fire Pro, I do want to mention a little bit about Splatoon 2, which is coming out sooner than I expected. There's actually a Splatfest for Splatoon 2 this weekend. Unfortunately, I won't be able to participate because I'm going to be out of town. But yeah, on Saturday, they're going to have a Splatfest, even though the game isn't out yet. You'll be able to download a free version and pretty much play for, I don't know if it's going to be all day or just for like a few hours that day, but it's a good way to test it out. And of course, everyone's going nuts about the new hosts of the game, Pearl and Marina, especially Marina, who is pretty much the Splatoon equivalent of Twintel, except even better. And there's a lot of questions to be asked because Marina looks to be an Octoling. So yeah, that's interesting. And yeah, the original Squid Sisters from the first game, Callie and Marie. Callie has gone missing, and that's actually like a huge chunk of like the single player story mode, with Marie being like your advisor for that. And who knows how that'll turn out. I can't wait, because I freaking love Splatoon. Honestly, I need to boot up Splatoon 1 and make a video explaining how the game is Pac-Man, so that way that can be sent around for anyone new to Splatoon to understand how things work, because way too many people get annoyed that Splatoon isn't all about killing people, and instead it's about just painting the stage a color, and it's like, oh, this is a lame third-person shooter. It's not a third-person shooter, it's Pac-Man. Crush Roller, technically. But yes, it's a Pac-Man clone. Once you realize that what you're really playing is Pac-Man, the game gets so much more amazing. Also, Platinum posted some pictures of the Wonderful 101 to that same account they posted the red and blue Bayonetta pictures. So could that also be coming to Switch? I wouldn't be surprised. I think everything on Wii U is coming to Switch. Let's just be real here. Let's see, anything else worth talking about? Nope, okay. Time to talk about Fire Pro Wrestling. So, Fire Pro Wrestling World just went into Steam Early Access this week. Early Access pretty much means you pay to play a beta of the game. Once it's actually finished, it'll be on PS4 as well. But yeah, it's out, and it's pretty meaty for an Early Access game, but it's still a little wonky. Definitely still has bugs in it, like the character creation system's a bit obtuse. There's a bunch of heads that just have holes in them. A lot of them. I'm trying to fully understand that. It's kind of annoying. So character creation's a little obtuse right now. I noticed some bugs with the layering, like sometimes a character's foot would appear outside of their shoe. It's definitely lacking in arenas and modes and extra wrestlers and content for right now, because it's early access. I want to get that out of the way right now, because Fire Pro Wrestling is the kind of thing that sounds and seems pretty darn interesting and amazing. Because wherever you go, when it comes to wrestling games, someone's going to mention that Fire Pro is one of, if not the best. And then you look it up, and you start raising an eyebrow. This is because all of the Fire Pro games, with one exception, are in 2D. And I don't mean like gorgeous Vanillaware 2D. Oh no! Rather, Fire Pro, all the characters look like weird marionettes, where their hand and their forearm and the back of their arm and their head and their body, all those things are separate sprites that they rotate around to move. So you look at it and it's like, this looks a lot like a Super Nintendo game. What do you mean this is like the best wrestling game ever? But that only like adds to its intrigue, because now you're trying to figure out, why does this janky looking wrestling game have such a big fan base? Well, Come to find out, Fire Pro dates all the way back to the TurboGrafx in Japan. Back where those sorts of visuals would have actually made sense, though they didn't initially use these kinds of visuals. Those would come later in the Super Nintendo days. They made a ton of them in the Super Nintendo days, including 3 that were women's wrestling, and that's actually where they started to implement the, rotated sprite things, and, Japanese women's wrestling is a very different beast than what you think it is. And it was super popular in the 80s, and yeah, they did this sort of, they did 3 games of that on the Super Nintendo, and, Super Nintendo's where the series really started to evolve, and once they started doing the sprite rotation-based characters, those actually looked really good for a Super Nintendo game. And that was also where the infamous Suda51, creator of Killer 7, No More Heroes, Lollipop Chainsaw, all those games, that's actually where he got his start, was in one of the Fire Pros. The only old one that's fan-translated, because he wrote the story. The very bizarre story that ends with your wrestler committing suicide. Yeah, so, it's a weird thing. Most Fire Pro games don't have a story, but that one did. It was the last one they did on Super Nintendo. So they did 2D sprites for a while, and in 1996 they were like, well, time to evolve with the times, let's make one with 3D character models. Oh, wow, it's garbage. It was on PS1, it looked like crap, looks like it plays, I've never played it, but you can kind of look at it and tell this was a bad idea. In fact, you could tell it was a bad idea because immediately after that they swore never to do 3D again. Now, they do have a 3D wrestling series from these same people called King of Colosseum, but it never really took off. It was never as popular as their 2D sprite-based Fire Pro. And the series continued onward in Japan. We would only ever get 3 Fire Pro wrestling games in America. 2 on GBA, and then the last one on PS2. Now, I mentioned the game looks kind of weird when you're playing on Dreamcast and PS2, and you got these Super Nintendo-like rotating sprite wrestlers. But you play it on GBA, all of a sudden that makes perfect sense. It's probably the best wrestling game on GBA, because you have all the sprite rotation and character creation and all the fantastic features of Fire Pro in your pocket. Hey, this is great. And then Fire Pro Wrestling Returns, which was the last Fire Pro game up until now. Came out 10 years ago, was released in America as a, cheap budget release on PS2. So, what is it about this game, though, that intrigues so many people? Well, the first thing, a lot of those games had a huge pile of 100 plus wrestlers. And they came from all over the world. They were based on real wrestlers, but of course they didn't have the license. So their solution was they'd make little tweaks, maybe color something wrong, change a name. So it's not Hulk Hogan of the WWE, it's Bulk Bogan of the WFW. And then they have this option they just leave in the game to edit the pre-existing wrestlers. So what people do is they get the game and then they go, just change these B's to an H, make his hair the proper color. Hey, now I've got Hulk Hogan in the game. And then you just go through the list, and then people wind up distributing their save files where they fix all the characters, and all of a sudden you have 100, 200 wrestlers from all over the world, all in one game. At one point, apparently Fire Pro even had MMA matches, but the UFC cracked down on them. I don't know if those will be back or not. But on top of that, they also have an extensive character creator. Perhaps not as versatile as when you're using actual 3D models, but yeah, they've got tons of different character parts that you can mix and match and recolor, and oh, egad, the hundreds and hundreds of heads they have in the game. Right now, I don't think they have all the body parts in Fire Pro Wrestling World, but they have, hundreds of heads right now. It's a bit ridiculous. So, okay, you have character creation, and since there are all these little basic 2D sprite things, you can usually save a pile of custom characters. But I found out the thing that really, another part of it is the gameplay, because it doesn't use that many buttons, but it winds up being very technical because it's timing-based instead of mashing-based. But come to find out, the thing that really made people love the games was the AI. kind of a weird thing, but here's the thing. When you make your custom character, you get to customize their AI, and it's pretty extensive, and you can actually get your character to mimic the behaviors of different wrestlers, and that wound up, like, really intriguing people. The fact that they actually tried to get the wrestler AI to behave right, where you have some who, like, play very dirty, some who play to the crowd, some who don't even care about winning, they're just there to, like, troll the face wrestlers, and they put it all together in such a way that there's a lot of people who don't even really bother playing the game, they just watch the wrestlers wrestle, and then, like, commentate over it. I was watching a stream of that on launch night, and the commentators were, like, preposterously good for it. And yeah, all this comes together to make this weird wrestling game that looks so old, and so jank, and yet at the same time is so impossibly beloved. And Fire Pro Wrestling World is the first one to have online features. Now, stupid me, I forgot to actually try the online play. But I did try it on my crappy laptop, because I have two laptops. I have the good one that I use for capturing and streaming, mostly because I still need to fix my desktop PC. That's been on the list of things to do for a while. And then I have my laptop that I actually take with me that's, like, kind of cheap. And it's basically just the one I used for schoolwork and stuff. And I tried it, and the load times were significantly longer, but after the game loaded, I was able to play Fire Pro on a much lower end system than what is recommended by Steam. And while I didn't try the online play, I did check out the character downloading, which is actually done through the Steam Workshop. So if you want to see the characters people are making, you can just go on the Steam, go to Fire Pro Wrestling World, look in the workshop, and you can look at pictures of what people are creating. And I very much, like, I know I get very excited and I make some games sound perhaps a little bit too good. I would highly recommend you look up some YouTube videos of this before going all in. And again, Fire Pro Wrestling World is in early access right now. It doesn't have the huge roster of wrestlers that it normally does. They might actually avoid that altogether this time and just let the users create all the wrestlers. It does not have all of its character creation parts in yet. The character creation's still a little bit janky and needs to be touched up. There's still some bugs and hiccups, and they need to add in more modes and things. But I will say it's at least stable. Like, my time spent playing it was very good. But actually, one of the weirdest bugs I found in the game, I don't even know if it's a bug or just a feature they forgot to put in, I don't know how to quit a match. Like, I was watching the computer wrestle, and I was like, okay, I'm done. And I'm like, wait, what button do I press to end the match? How do I stop? Maybe that's on controller. Like, the game is kind of designed to be played with a controller, because it's going to be on PS4, console-based game design, and so on. It has, like, limited mouse and keyboard support. So maybe that would have helped, but just with the keyboard, I was having some troubles. So yeah, it's Fire Pro Wrestling's kind of neat. It's still a little bit jank, but it's a thing to look at. That's what I'm gonna say. And it's great to see the series come back after 10 years and finally get online features, because that's a thing it desperately needed. But the fact that it is on Steam Early Access is definitely going to skew things. As much as I'd like to play this on PS4, and probably will get it when the PS4 release hits, I think a lot of people are just going to play it on Steam just because they already can, and they've already started making their characters. And Sony has not been good about crossplay. There are some crossplay games with PC, but it is a question of, will we be able to download the custom characters from the PC version? Will we be able to play against the PC version? Will there be any interconnectivity with the PC release? I'll certainly keep you posted as things progress, because I like creating characters. I don't normally play wrestling games, but I like to create characters. I spent a kind of absurd amount of time making characters on the GBA one. So, I think this is going to happen. In fact, that's what I intend to do on my downtime during this trip that I'm taking, is just sit down and try to make all sorts of crazy, weird custom wrestlers, see what I can get the creation system to do for me. We'll find out when we get there. So anyway, that about sums up what the deal is with Fire Pro Wrestling and World. Again, it is so the kind of thing you have to look at to understand, because look up a video so you know what kind of weird jank we're dealing with this game, and then just listen to the sheer amount of love the fans give it. It's kind of absurd. But yeah, Fire Pro Wrestling, it's back. Thank goodness. Good times. Yeah, as I said, WWE 2K18 will be coming to Switch. I'm very curious to see how that turns out, too. Anyway, enough about that. I think I'm going to take a bit of a longer break, and I'll find something to wrap this up with. Until then, how about Ship to Wreck by Florence and plus The Machine here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Enjoy. Thank you for listening. And remember, 7 p.m. tonight on Twitch, look for Gelton Z, twitch.tv/GeltonZ, and we'll play some Final Fantasy 12. We are just about to get Fran and Balthier on the team. We are at the part where they're kind of trying to crash this big old banquet for the Empire, which is very early in the game. And we'll see how long we can stream for. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, and enjoy Ship to Wreck by Florence plus the... That was We Don't Talk Anymore by Charlie Puth featuring Selena Gomez here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and this is GameBabble Live, our video game news and information show which airs every Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m. As such, we are slowly easing into the last chunk of the show where I have to find something to wrap it up with, because it's been kind of a slowish week. I mean, we got Fire Pro and Final Fantasy 12, but that's about it. Yeah, we got, and Sub-Zero. So we got stuff. It's not quite the classic summer game drop, but it was definitely slower. Not too much to discuss here. But there's still some stuff. Just decided to check the PlayStation VR Reddit, which is like the only place to get any information on the PlayStation VR, and looks like Radial G is once again coming soon. They have a trailer out for the PlayStation VR version. Radial G's been driving me nuts, because that was supposed to come out back in March. Then they ran into a bug, and they fixed it, and unfortunately getting through the Sony certification process has been a pain in the butt. What's Radial G? F-Zero in VR. It is a high-speed, futuristic hover vehicle racing game with weapons in VR. And I look forward to that. I want to go really, really fast and scream a whole lot. I want to play this game really badly. It's on, like, every other VR headset, but the PlayStation VR version's having a little trouble getting out the door. And even still, they don't have a solid release date, so it's coming soon. I mentioned Super Hot VR is coming. That'll be nice. And, yeah. So in other VR news, they just announced there is going to be a One Piece PlayStation VR game. Not a lot has been revealed about it, but I'm very, very happy to hear that is a thing. And Dino Frontier should be coming soon-ish? Dino Frontier being a sort of a, like, Sim City-ish type of sim game, except you're, like, building an outpost camp in a world with dinosaurs? I don't know, looks pretty neat. Also, in interesting upcoming games, looks like Resident Evil Revelations will be heading to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One at the end of August, so good times for that. And there's also a game coming out. When's this actually hitting? It's called Blue Reflection. Did they say end of September 29th? And that is for America. Blue Reflection is, believe it or not, a magical girl RPG. So it is an RPG where you get to go all Sailor Moon. You play as a Japanese schoolgirl, and you deal with school life, and then you transform and fight monsters and go to alternate worlds and things like that. The graphics for it are very pretty. It's on PlayStation 4, and, I think they invented some kind of new hair shine shader engine just for this, because the hair looks ridiculous in this game. Just, egad, it's shiny! So that could be a thing I'm kind of excited about, because it looks like an interesting little game. And yeah, I guess the last thing to talk about is the fact that looks like once again we are petitioning everyone not to take away net neutrality. So I figure that's worth talking about. Basically, I don't know all the full details of net neutrality, other than if we lose it, it will be very bad, because one of the effects, all I know is one effect, and from that I can extrapolate just how dumb this is going to be. Basically, if we lose net neutrality, then internet service providers can control the amount of traffic to different websites. So, if one internet service provider gets a bug up its butt about a website, is I don't like this website, they could throttle your connection to it or possibly cut it off entirely. Alternately, though, this means that they could throttle your connection to, say, Netflix. This is one of the big issues. Internet service providers could do something dumb like say, oh, if you want our internet service plus the ability to stream movies from Netflix, you have to pay more on top of your Netflix subscription fee. Yeah. Now, there's no guarantee that internet service providers would do this, but the fact that this would thus be allowed to them, no. Because once you take away net neutrality, there's no getting it back. There would be no way to say, if an internet service provider started doing some BS like this, where it's oh, you have to pay us extra if you want to actually be able to stream Netflix, then, yeah, if they tried to re-implement net neutrality and be oh, hey, you can't do that anymore, it would cause a mess. It would almost be impossible. I know that if you start up Firefox, it will just straight take you to an automated, please yell at Congress about this page. And, there's a concentrated effort on that today. I can tell because literally every website will remind you of this. You start up Firefox, it'll tell you this. You go to Reddit, it'll tell you this. You go to Twitch, there is a big red bar at the top that says, hey, remember to yell at Congress today. Because, if we lose net neutrality, the internet is going to get really, really stupid really, really fast. No matter what you think of the internet right now, no matter what beef you have with it, it'll probably get worse. So, even with my rudimentary knowledge of the things that go awry with net neutrality being taken away, it's a thing we want to keep. That is definitely. So, might want to tell people about that. Because the only people that would benefit from this are internet service providers, because they would be able to screw us in new and unique ways, and quite frankly, we don't have enough choices of internet service providers to allow this. We don't have enough of a free internet service providing market here. It's a lot like internet service is a lot like telephone service. You don't have a whole lot in the way of choices. If they start pulling BS like this, things crumble real fast with the internet. So, just friendly reminder from me as well. You'll be reminded when you go to twitch.tv tonight at 7 p.m. to watch me play Final Fantasy XII if you want to. Because that is a thing I'm going to do. 7 p.m. Central Time tonight at twitch.tv/GeltonZ, GELTONZ. I will play some Final Fantasy XII. We are at the part where we are about to crash the banquet and get Balthier and Fran on our party very early in the game. Pretty much the real game is just about to start now. Yeah, pretty excited about it. So, Here's to people showing up for that. Other than that, I don't think I have a lot to say. I think I mentioned what's going on in the Crash Insane trilogy, where people had found out that Crash 1 had, they pretty much applied Crash 3's jump physics to all the other games, and that kind of broke Crash 1. It's still playable and beatable and 100%able. It's just a lot harder because you keep slipping off of the turtles, and you need to keep momentum. Which kind of makes the Crash Insane trilogy the Crash Bandicoot equivalent of Super Mario All-Stars, which was also quite a bit different from the original games when they remade them all for 16-bit, and some people liked it and some people hated it. Either way, it's still nice. That's about that. And yeah, I think that just about wraps up the show. So to recap, there should be an anime in theaters called Project Ito Genocidal Organ today and tomorrow, but I can't find a single theater in Missouri playing it. Kiki's delivery service, though, will be July 23rd and 24th, and In This Corner of the World will be August 11th. The EVO Evolution Fighting Game Tournament will be this weekend, so be sure to tune in for that if you like fighting games. Sub-Zero's out on Injustice 2, and Arcana Heart 3 Love Max 6 Stars will be coming to PCs thanks to the Kickstarter. Thank goodness. That's good to hear. The Castlevania series is up on Netflix. It is based on Castlevania 3. People have mixed opinions on it, but hey, if you have a Netflix account, that sure is a thing. Fire Pro Wrestling World is on Steam in Steam Early Access, so it's not exactly finished, but it is exactly Fire Pro. And yeah, Final Fantasy XII Zodiac Age. I'm happy about it. I'm going to play it tonight on Twitch. And, WWE 2K18 coming to Switch kind of matters. And also, there is a Splatfest on Saturday, which will be free to participate in if you have a Nintendo Switch, because the game isn't out yet. It's sort of a preview beta thing. So, everyone go play some of that if you have a Switch. Yeah, I think that about covers it for this show. Thank you so much to everyone who has decided to listen to GameBabble Live here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Hope I'll see one or two of you tonight on the Twitch stream that no one watches. I'm still building things up with the Twitch streams. Once again, twitch.tv/GeltonZ, GELTONZ. Hopefully I'll see you there. If not, I'm still going to play Final Fantasy 12. Because Final Fantasy 12. And yeah, you can go there and you'll see last night's stream as well. Where I actually start the game and stuff. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed the show. Thank you once again for listening. Now it's time to kick you back to the music with We Don't Know by the Strumbolinas here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind.